Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vulnerability Time podcast. I am your host, published author, and PhD candidate, Josias Abriel. Before we get started, folks, just a couple quick announcements. One, the show is now accepting donations. We need to get a new laptop to continue the show. So I have a Cash App in the episode description below. You just click on the link tree and you can donate. Anything helps. There's this used laptop that I was looking at, and it's about $600 something. So that I will be needing to get that to. I found like the best and cheapest used laptop to be able to record the show, because the current laptop, she's dying on us, folks, and the software and the updates, it's starting to do its thing again. So if you would like to donate to help the show out, please do so. Anything helps. Also, if you are listening on YouTube, give this a like. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please give this a 5-star rating. It will help the algorithm. I do need 10 more 5 stars to continue the show. So if you could please do that, I would truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone. Okay, so with us today, we have a brand new guest, Emilia. I've been looking forward to this episode. Emilia, welcome to the Vulnerability Time podcast. It's great to
Thank
have
you
you
so much for
here.
having me. We're so excited. This has been
Yes.
way overdue, and I'm so grateful to be here today. Thank you for
I'm
having me.
so grateful. Yes, thank you for being here. So before we get into our topics, tell us a little bit about you. Like, what do you do for work? Any work you have coming out? Things of that nature, hobbies, let
Okay.
us get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I first have to start with the, I would say, number one loves of my life, which are plants. Um, Outside of that, obviously, I am a huge nature lover, and nature is such an inspiration for so much of the work that I do today. And outside of that, I have 3 fur babies that keep me sane on the day to day and ground me. And I have a partner whom I'm madly in love with and spend all of my time outside of supporting my clients, really trying to make sure that we are, the role models that we never had, if you will. So what I do in the quote unquote day to day for my job, I like to say it's actually my calling,
Mm,
is very much helping people evolve, whatever that looks like for them. So maybe it's, if I think about my clients, maybe it's a mom that's really struggling to
mhm,
get back her identity after her first child. I have a business owner that I just got off of that has multiple team members and is struggling to navigate the generational cycle of change
right.
in his business. And then I also work with couples as well, navigating conflict and generational cycles. So, at the heart of what I do, I blend neuroscience with trauma recovery and
Yes.
help to improve our emotional intelligence at the heart of the level. So, habits, identity, all that happy jazz. So, I love the
Wow.
what I do, and I most importantly love the souls that I get to serve. So, it's a privilege
Oh,
and an honor every single day.
that is so beautiful. Thank you for existing.
I appreciate that gratitude.
Yeah.
Well, it's led me to meet people like you and have meaningful conversations about what is possible. Because, if you
Yeah.
were to ask younger Amelia at 6 years old, what do you want to quote unquote do in this world? She was just
Right.
someone who wanted to frolic in nature and
Yes.
help people. And I, didn't know what that looked like until it
Right.
found me. And I feel like it takes a courageous spirit to be vulnerable with what you love to
Yes.
eventually have what loves you find you.
Wow. Oh, that's powerful.
Mhm.
Something that, and I know some may disagree with this, but something that I So 2 years ago, I really started to just be more intentional with how I view nature.
Mm,
And now I treat and view nature just as equally as important as I do another human being. Um, I
I love
treat,
that.
yes, yes. And now it's even extending towards, bugs even. I'm like, I don't want to listen to the a hierarchical system that told me that plants are less than because did you hear
Mhm.
that if this world lost 3 billion people, Earth would survive and thrive, but if the world lost 3 billion trees, it would die. So I
Mhm.
was like, wait, who even told me that nature is less than, and why did they tell me that? And that question led me to hugging trees. Now I hug trees. I'm a tree
I
hugger.
love this.
Yes, I look at the plants, I acknowledge them, I thank them for existing, I wave at them. I talk to them just like how we would our pets, right? Like our animals, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm just like their life in general, but more specifically, I'm talking about nature in this time
Mhm.
is, they're not inanimate objects. They are just as alive as us and they impact the world so much more than we think about in our everyday, right? Like we don't realize like that
Mm.
tree that we just passed by, you know, if that tree and like 2 billion or even 3 million were just gone, that would we would see an impact. We would see the effect. So,
Absolutely.
yes.
Kind of bringing in a personal page as well here. I
Hmm.
just started the film Hopper, which is all about a residential beaver.
Love that movie.
You've seen it?
Seen
Okay,
it
so I
three
just started that.
times.
Oh, yeah, it's one of the ones that will be forever in our film library because I host what I call Evolve Movie Club, and we watch films from this standpoint of mindfulness. And
Yes.
essentially looking at the bigger picture that you just named. And for anyone that hasn't seen the film, it is very much acknowledging the fact that we are in an ecosystem where, for lack of better words, you could probably name it better than I, but we as human beings are part of a bigger system at play. And so many humans have been told that that's not the case.
Yeah.
And the ripple effects of our decisions don't have a ripple effect. And I think a lot of societies have been disconnected from
Yep.
their nature, from the elements that have nurtured us to be where we are today. And so
Right.
when I talk about evolving, it is directly connected, going back down to our roots. And
Yeah.
fun facts, there is a study that recently has come out that headlines essentially tree huggers have it figured out because of the fact that getting out in nature and grounding and connecting to it is in fact lowering cortisol levels. Surprise,
It does.
surprise, nature provides in so many ways that we don't even realize. And
Hmm.
whether it be an insect or seemingly small and insignificant creature,
Right.
that film does a beautiful job at making sure that they have a different vantage point. And I want to say recently I heard in Canada that trees got right. So it's a really wonderful
Oh.
world that we're starting to move into. And I love
Yes.
the fact that that statistic provided a doorway of opening
Hmm.
to living more intentionally and more mindfully for you because we need
Yes.
that.
Exactly, because imagine if how we value human life, imagine if we valued, the trees or nature just like that. I wonder, would certain leaders get away with what they're doing? Would there be an uproar, right? Because it
Mhm.
does harm the planet, which does, have impacts on us, right? We may
100%.
not see it so immediate, right? But like, it's one of those
Mm.
things where you'll look back and you're like, how did we get here? Oh, okay. Yeah. We have some.
So I
And,
have a story for you on that.
oh, go for it.
And I have a piece. So anyone viewing, so this is a piece of bleached coral that I had
Mm,
um, taken off of a beach. So way back when I was studying my undergraduate, at one point, I had done research into New Zealand. I had been fortunate enough to travel across 16 different countries. And one of them, from New Zealand to Australia, I had gone to the Great Barrier Reef. Now, little Emilia, that was a dream come true to go there, because it's, speaking of the biodiversity and the nature, you know, it's beautiful.
Right.
And I learned over time that the pictures that I was growing up on was this vibrant picture of coral reef, that just like the most beautiful fish and the most beautiful water. And then my research has led me to actually snorkeling there. And I realized, oh my goodness, this is not at all what I had grown up thinking that it would be. And in my goggles, I thought I had a hole in my goggles. Turns out it was like I was just absolutely crying in the most visceral grief that I didn't even know. It kind of snuck up on me. But the reason for that is I saw an underwater graveyard, and that coral represents, I have it in my peripherals every single day, because that inspired so much of the work that I do now. Because the comment that you just mentioned, I came back from that research and I was the college student flipping off all the lights, because in my brain I was like, these are our choices every single day have an impact, worlds that we can't see. We are so privileged to not be able to see those worlds and to be so removed from them.
Right.
And so to kind of bring that full circle, I keep that in my peripheral every single day when I sit down and look at my deeper why of why I do what I do, why I navigate the world in the way in which I do. And it is I'm right there with you. It is so profound when we can understand our interconnectedness and we can choose differently. I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to actually stand up for those little things that don't have a voice, that don't have rights, that don't have so much of the connection points to people who live and see that every single day. So I'm with you. And that forever changed the way in which I showed up as a business person as well, because I very much grew up in a world where it was very focused on consumer exploitation, extortion, all that stuff. And I remember, like, that's not right. It's just not right. And that's what my little body felt. So
exactly. And folks, here's the sociologist coming out on me, but what easy definition of capitalism is: profit over people, profit over planet. So there's so exactly what you said, right?
Gotta do it differently, because it's a losing game.
It
It's
really
not a win-win-win.
is. Exactly. Even for the ones, at the top that it benefits, eventually it's a losing game for them too, because, this is they're also on this planet, right? And when things go on in the environment because of our actions, or, it still will affect them. They may navigate it differently. But and if they end up, going to Mars or another planet, I mean, that's still, there's a reason why, right? And so it's like there's, like I said, like they're still affected. It's a losing game. So yes, okay. Oh, I love talking about that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So you mentioned growing up. So let's talk about the growth journey. I know that's one of our topics. So why that topic? What's your journey with that? Tell us about this.
Yeah. So I want everyone who's listening, including us right now, I have a digital asset that I'll definitely send you later in case you want to add that in show notes or whatever. But it's been really helpful for me to use with individuals, because what I found is that we are all on a growth journey. So I want us to imagine what that could look like. And the visual that we have on that is a mountain. And like I said, I love plants. So I'm obviously a big hiker, nature lover, get out there. But I think the mountain is very much our own journey. And so the growth journey is what it takes to go from when you're young and naive, or you're not, your eyes aren't open and you're conditioned. That is old. What when you become, 30, 40, 50-year-old, and you have some of this insight as to what the heck life is all about, you can look back on the journey, and that's at the very bottom of the mountain. And that is what we call old world. And so for me growing up, I was someone who had no idea what the world was, as I feel like we all kind of come into this world, right? Naked, scared, and afraid. And we're just trying to explore to the extent that our attachment or nervous system really allows.
Yeah.
And so we get conditioned to believe to something that you said earlier, right? Like, who told me that, insects and this and that, right? Like, we just absorb these lessons, these beliefs, these social and cultural predispositions, if you were, right? And we embody that before we even know how it might be limiting our trajectory in our life journey. And so for me, that was very much this wide-eyed gal who I didn't realize in that journey. And this is between, right, if we think about life ages, 0 to around 12 years old. Usually that's where our fundamental development starts to lock in, right? So we're at the bottom of the mountain. We're just learning, okay, we got to get hiking boots on. We got to make sure that we have our gear packed. Some of us don't have any gear or even boots, right? To the analogy. And for me, there was a window of, okay, let me just try to learn about life, learn about people. So excited, so curious. And boom, what happens? We have so many of us have adverse childhood experiences, and I'm not someone who is untouched by that. And I had experienced a really horrific experience growing up.
What's your ACE score?
So my ACE score, I can't tell you it right now because literally right now you have in real time my protective parts being like, we don't know that, and scrubbing out the memory.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. So, but to that, and maybe it will trickle out later. But why I want to give a little context to that is because what I had experienced created this complete erasure of my memory.
Yes.
So it changed the way in which my nervous system obviously got developed, but it impacted my brain. And when we go through adverse experiences, all of us have our brain get totally changed. And so that's growth journey, what we're in old world, we just try to survive and figure out how to live life in that. Then all of a sudden we start to figure out these patterns that we have, these beliefs and these distortions, cognitive distortions that help us keep safe out of what quite literally we had gone through. So our traumatizing experiences, we start to kind of pull the wool over our eyes, rose-colored glasses, whatever, with humans, just to try to coexist with likely the people who had inflicted pain, suffering, and adversity to us. That might be our family, that might be extended family, that might be our culture, that might be siblings, it might be parents, et cetera, right? So that's old world, but you don't know that until you take your first leap of faith, which is essentially you going up and figuring out like, holy crap, I don't really want to be here because this world, this existence is not what I want to do. And I know it's harming me. I know it's hurting me. And usually that's where the coping mechanism. So for me, essentially my memory was erased. I joke about this, but I literally was called Dory because I couldn't remember anything about myself. So that I pretty much lived my life from what I now know, ages 4 to 25 years old, without really any recollection, and developed these parts of me that essentially scrub my memory whenever it gets anywhere close to trauma. So you even just asking that just happened, and it's so hard in those moments because you want to get so frustrated and you want to be able to connect with other people, but sometimes trauma doesn't let you do that. So what happens when you go from old world to what I call lonely land? Now, these are the stages of the growth journey. There's 3 of them. The growth journey is taking that leap of faith and saying, I don't really know what's going on inside of me. I don't really know why I don't like myself. I don't really know why I'm going through all what I'm going through, right? The suffering, you're now aware of the suffering and you're like, I don't want this anymore. Right. So that leap of faith is essentially saying, okay, well, I don't like where I came from or what I'm experiencing now. So let me go jump into what feels like lonely land. I don't really know who I am, but I haven't really figured out, who I'm not. And I don't really know what I want to do with my life, but I don't really, love where I'm working right now. I don't really love the friends that I grew up with. But I also don't want to be alone. And so you kind of journey and trek into maybe a relocation or maybe a new job, or maybe you totally shift careers. or you have a statistic come out, like what I hear happen with in one of your journeys, a statistic that shakes us to our core and all of a sudden changes our entire way of life. So that lonely land is the journey for me when I realized my journeys took me to right the Great Barrier Reef, and I didn't really know fully why. But then that underwater moment, we all have inflection moments in our life where it wakes us up, if you will.
Yeah.
And that moment, seeing an underwater graveyard woke me up and said, what the
Wow.
heck is going on here? And what
Wow.
is my role here? So Lonely Land is all about self-discovery,
Yeah.
self-awareness, understanding what impacted you. Your A score is usually a part of that discovery.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the systemic issues that have gotten you to where you are and you feel like you're in quicksand, but you don't really fully know yourself yet. And so
Wow.
that is usually where your biggest pain births your biggest purpose. And for me in Lonely Land, it was that moment of like, okay, I know I'm going to be alone and weird and I'm not a normal person, but I'm also, I know I'm pretty cool and fun and all this stuff. And I know the things about me. And so I'm going to learn how to figure out how to, number one, get my memory back. Number two, how to not have, if I do decide to have children, not have them grow up in a world where our nature is no longer there because we were stupid in our decisions. But
Mhm.
I don't really know necessarily what that journey or what that path is going to take from a career standpoint. So let me
Right.
just learn and explore. So I
Mhm.
jumped from different industries and started to follow what was inside screaming. And then that's kind of where the second leap of faith comes in the growth journey, which is, you're getting to a higher mountain, you
Yeah.
see, and you have all that retrospective awareness.
Yes.
And then you're starting to attract your people, the people that also share the same values and maybe not belief systems, but definitely they see life and they're not falling asleep at the wheel and they are woken up by their own choice. They're okay with the suffering that they went with. Doesn't mean they agree with it, but they understand that they don't want to contribute to the future that same suffering. And so new world is the third stage where you walk into your growth journey and you're like, okay, I have this new awareness, and this is where the fun part kind of ends and begins, if you will, depending on
Yeah.
if you have a growth mindset. You either choose to do things differently every single day to what we were just talking about, or you repeat the cycle and you kind of slide back down that mountain and go back into lonely land. And that's where more often than not, I see individuals struggling not to go back to those old parties, not to go back to their old towns, not to go
Mhm.
back to the old ways of thinking, because it's a lot scarier to be at the quote unquote metaphorical top of your mountain and stick out and be different than
Mhm.
it is to actually have the courage, the vulnerability, and the faith, whatever form that takes for you, to actually do what you're meant to call and what you're called to. So that's the growth
Yeah.
journey in a nutshell. And it's a journey that is not linear, right? We always say growth is not
Right.
linear to the nature inspiration. It's more like spirals.
Right.
But if you're not breaking cycles along the way, the growth journey feels like a slugfest. And that's where depression and anxiety, all these mental health
Mm.
challenges really start to kick up. So that's the growth journey in a nutshell.
Yeah. And very, very beautifully said and articulated. Articulated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very, very, very beautifully said. You know, I have three things. One, do you have your own podcast?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll talk about that at the end and put it in the episode description below. Because I was about to say the way you speak, the tone, everything, and I'm just like, you need your own podcast. You really, you do it, but you have it, so great. Okay.
Thank you.
Um, Second, so my research. So currently, for those who don't know, I'm currently getting my PhD in sociology, right? So in 2 years, I will be Dr. Josias Abriel. However, for my undergrad and master's,
Mhm.
more specifically my undergrad being a part of the McNair research program,
Mhm.
my research was adverse childhood experiences and the direct correlation to um,
Mm.
incarceration, right? And so
Yeah.
the reason I mention is because ACEs, which is just short for adverse childhood experiences,
Mhm.
um, that's when during my research is when I found out my own ACE score. And knowledge was so enlightening. It just really was. It was so healing for me. It healed me because I mean, it was so healing for me. But yes, like it helped
Mhm.
me learn, how childhood adversity does literally reshape the brain, how it literally impacts DNA, how it literally impacts the nervous system.
Yeah.
But like, like the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, the hippocampus, the gray matter, the white matter, all these parts of the brain, to name the few,
Mm.
how, you know, those are you will if you do a brain scan, you will see a lack, right? You will see in areas where they didn't grow or it didn't produce as much gray matter or
Right.
white matter. And the brain can end up looking completely different than from someone who hasn't really experienced extreme childhood adversity, right? So we
Mhm.
see that it's either 4 and up or 3 and up where we see the heavy, like the more significant brain changes, right? Where
Mhm.
and so, and not saying that 1 or 2 doesn't change the brain, it's just that it's just such an observable observation when it's 4 and up. But if
Yeah.
someone's experienced one, but it's still so extreme, that can, of course, change the brain. So, folks, what I'll be doing actually is I'll just do a
Mm.
podcast on the research that I have done. And so that we can, and I'll do it, I'll share my screen and I'll do video, folks, so that we can
Ooh,
literally, yeah, right.
that'll
So
be
we
so
can,
fun.
yeah, it's like you gave me the, I don't know, like just the inspo to do it. Um, so that we can see, like, like the physical, like what the brain actually looks like. Because when we're walking around in person, we just see a human body. We don't
Mm.
see the change, right? And maybe that
Yeah.
can help us understand not only others but ourselves and help alleviate frustrations. Because for example, like our most traumatized populations
Mm.
are behind bars. They are on the streets,
Yep.
suffering from addiction. It doesn't mean that folks who live in a mansion or have housing don't. It's just saying, like, if you look at just the incarcerated population and just the
Yeah.
homeless population, you will see that they,
The most.
yeah, the
Mhm.
most at
Yeah.
childhood adversity. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
imagine if we saw like brains instead of just bodies, and growing up, I wouldn't have judged.
Oh, I love that you say that because I said a year or so ago. So every single year we do what's called an evolve group coaching program, and
Do you
it's
know
it's
Bianca?
essentially I do. She is my co-host. Mm-hmm.
She was on my show like 2 seasons ago, and
Hey,
I,
she's my girl.
that
That
she
is
is
my
amazing.
co-host. Yes,
Okay.
yes. So now, yeah, things are connecting. So why I mentioned that is because in that program last year, I had shared with our cohort because one of the screens that we had was a child who has a high A score in their brain, like an actual MRI, as opposed to someone that didn't have the same. It was childhood neglect that we were talking about specifically, emotional childhood neglect.
Hmm.
So we had those two on the screens, and I have goosebumps even talking
Is it the
about it
3-year-old
because,
one?
yeah, yeah, it's so
I
wild,
hate the
right?
small and
You've
then
seen
the
it?
big. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I put that there. I have
Wow.
goosebumps every single time because of what you just said rippled so deeply to what in a way I think I deeply am trying to do in the world, which is recognize that it's so easy when someone has a broken leg, right? You see a cast wrapped up. And so immediately we adjust how we navigate and judge or navigate that interaction. But we can't see what's in between. And so I said to the group, I was like,
Mm,
okay, imagine everyone. We were on that slide. It was super powerful. Imagine everyone for a moment. Instead of your on your Zoom faces, right? We had 10
mm,
different tiles. Imagine all that's showing is your MRI scan. How much differently would we approach each other if we saw the amygdala like firing off and freaking
yeah.
out on that MRI? We would recognize that that person's starting to enter in a fight or flight, or their hypervigilance is going off. And we would probably adjust adjust how we navigate with that person with so much more compassion, because we naturally are so compassionate
Yeah.
as a species, but we don't see what's happening with people's brains, and we
Right.
never have a look inside our own brains. So I'm with you, like that awareness and studying and understanding some of this stuff, it really does help the healing journey. It helps, us kind of have compassion to ourselves a little bit, and it helps us recognize the judgments that we might have with others. The judging a book by its cover couldn't be so unfair
Yeah.
to humans and what they go through. And I'm with you. If I could place my brain here and just have it real time showing,
Yeah.
but we don't have the technology for that yet,
Right,
unfortunately.
right.
But I'm really excited for the episode that you do for that, because I can't wait to
Yes.
explore that, because I think the world needs more of people who are willing to talk about that. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll be on a coaching call with clients and I'll realize like they don't have the neural anatomy understanding, not to mention even words to put to when they're stumbling on their language. For example, I have a client with cerebral palsy, and his comprehension is so much more delayed than quote unquote an average person. And you wouldn't think in a setting when we're talking about our feelings or our test anxiety that it would be worth it to pull up a brain. But I literally in real time, I'm like, hey, we got to look at what's happening in your brain. So the 3D models of the brain, it really does help us understand, oh, now I realize that my inner critic is not fair right now to me with this test anxiety that I have. So it's the most incredible organ. It sets the foundation for our experiences, and wrapping this all in a bow. We all go through a journey, and not everyone is as aware of where they are in that growth journey. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share that, because when we can kind of pinpoint where we are on a map, it helps us understand where we also want to go.
Exactly. Earlier my jaw dropped. This is what I'm thinking. I'll see if I can fit it into my course curriculum, but I'm a professor. I would love to have you come guest speak to my students. I'm a college professor. I would love to help you come speak to my students. Um, I will look at my curriculum, well, not my curriculum, my syllabi in August
Okay.
and see what we can do. Um,
Sounds like blast.
yes, I would, because it fits what you said will fits perfectly into. I'm speechless. That was powerful, but I loved
Oh.
what you said. I do want to say, like, I also love that you said, because for me, it makes sense why mine was kind of weird, kind of different, right? But it makes sense why I don't remember much of my childhood. I only remember the bad things. I know
Oh.
there wasn't much good things, but it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like I lived 0 to 18. It
Mm.
doesn't feel like I've lived that. Like it, and that's something so evident, right? It's like it literally feels like that all happened. My my life all happened. It doesn't feel like it was 18 years. And I get time is an
Right.
illusion, yada yada yada, which I agree, but it didn't feel like it felt like it was like a year.
Yeah.
I've had good years that felt I've had good and bad years that both felt like longer than 0 to 18 in only one
Mm.
year. Yeah, so it
Isn't memory such an
it's
interesting
so
study?
interesting. And the
It
brain is
really
so
is.
complex. That's the thing. Like it's so complex and it's memory is so interesting. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like till this day, like it's very common that I forget things so quickly. So like I have to have a planner because I
Oh,
noticed
I'm
that,
with you.
right. I
Got
know
it.
we got it right here. Yes, planner
Yeah.
queens. But
Yes.
I noticed though that like as compared to my peers, I do
Mhm.
forget things a lot more. A lot more, you know.
Mhm. Mm.
Yes, like yeah,
Yeah.
so um
Yeah. Well, what
mhm,
I would say as someone who loves, brain health and
yes.
talking and sharing as much as I can and have the opportunity to is in my own brain recovery of memory recovery, I've learned to everything that I can about the brain, and there's so much more. It kind of feels like
Yes.
the bottom of the ocean. I feel like we're just scratching the surface, which is
Mhm.
equally daunting and exciting. But in learning some of the brain and the way in which my journey has taken me through is that we as human beings drastically underestimate how powerful some of the most um, priceless things are to our memory. So, for example, most people are sleep deprived on the day to day,
Yeah.
and sleep is quote unquote free, right?
Mm,
Sleep and the way in which our brains work in clearing out that quote unquote gunk during the night
mm-hmm. Yeah.
is so critical for memory consolidation, actual placement of the difference
Yeah.
between your episodic and implicit memories. And I didn't realize how much I took that for granted, that just getting a good night's sleep,
Sleep
right? We all
generator.
hear that from people that love us. It's like, okay, well, oh, I didn't realize there's little things that I'm doing working against my own brain from getting a better.
Yeah.
So I advocate for like sleep as much as possible because it is one of those little things that have such a huge leverage point in our
Yes.
world, in our growth journey, and who we are as human beings. And I was a shell of myself in
Yeah.
comparison to who I am now with a woman who's like all about her sleep.
Yes. Sleep is important. Exactly. Sleep matters.
Mm.
Um, I, I just one of these days we'll live in uh, a society that prioritizes sleep. Because I know right now it's
Mhm.
more, oh, don't sleep, work hard.
Mhm.
Now, none of that is based on science. Because if we look at the biology and the psychology, it will tell you that is the exact opposite. You need to actually get sleep.
I know.
Yeah, so there
It's weird how a lot of things are not governed by science, but here we are.
exactly. Here, yep. We get each other. We get each
Mhm.
other. We get each other. Um, yes. Okay, and so something else that I did want to touch in on,
Yeah.
before I do forget, because we could talk for days about this. This is amazing. I love
Mm.
talking with you. It's so easy. It's so aligned.
Mm.
It's so enriching. It's such a gift. And I just feel like your
Mm.
energy, and I'm an empath. And
Yes.
if I stare at someone long enough, I can see their aura.
Ooh.
But I have to stare at someone for like a good hour or two. So,
Okay.
but
Well, don't feel like you have to look away for that. Does that take from you when you do that? I'm super curious.
no, I don't want to sit there for an hour or two. I don't want to. I'm just like, maybe it's because I'm
Mm.
ADHD and autistic that I just sitting still for too long.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can barely do a 2 hour airplane ride. Okay, so
Mm.
that's
Mm.
gonna be interesting when I travel the out of North America. I don't know how I'm gonna do that.
Ooh.
Take a sedative or something. Take a horse tranquilizer. Um, um, because something's got to put me out. Okay, so, but your energy, I just want you to know you are such a gift to this world. After this call, I would love for
Mm.
you to look up what a star seed is, because you
Mm.
do give off that energy. And I've never been wrong about that. And I don't just say that to anybody, but I don't know if
I
you know
definitely
what that
will.
is.
I've
Yeah,
gotten that a lot from any empath that I have crossed
yeah.
paths with, and I've definitely done research,
Hmm.
and I've never done research at this level of the brain power that I have now. So again,
Yeah,
recall is like, I don't really know what that means right now, or I forget the
right.
files for lack of better words. And I'm so excited because I adore researching and learning.
Same.
Thank you for
I
that.
love it. I'm glad I get paid for it now.
Heck yeah, that's
Yes,
okay. That's true alignment right there. That is literally
exactly.
amazing.
Exactly. Um,
Mm.
you know, yeah, and something before we move on to our next topic, I do did want to mention this, but I did forget, but I'm glad I remembered.
Celebrating.
So I love that you mentioned, those levels of the growth journey. Um,
Mm.
and you mentioned a little bit about your transition to those levels. And so I thought, in the sake of vulnerability time, it was only fair that I also. So for me, I don't know if you know this. I think maybe I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but so literally what started my growth journey, what got me to those three levels, because I can see those levels
Mhm.
identified in my journey,
Mm.
is literally my near-death experience when I left my body and went on
Wow.
the other side. Yeah, and so that
Wow.
was also where I found out, oh, guess what? I am a star seed. I'm not from here. But
Mm,
very, very, very beautiful. And so to me, that was that second transition kind of where it was
mhm,
like, now that I have a comparison, now I realize that what I went through, that wasn't okay, that wasn't the norm,
mhm.
and so I yeah, and so that started
Wow.
everything. Everything for me. Yeah, that started everything for me because all I experienced on the other side, that's what I call it.
Mm.
I call it either the other side or eternity.
Oh,
I
I
don't
love it.
use, yeah, I don't use the word heaven because one, at least in my life, that's just only been tied to religion. And
Yeah.
folks, the religious definition of heaven, it's very limiting to what it actually is. So that's why
Hmm.
I'm like, let's broaden, let's give that word. It's yeah.
I
So,
love that. I've heard that
yeah.
actually from, I have a colleague of mine who a
Mhm.
lot of his work and research, he's 80 years old, and he is one of the coolest dudes I've ever met. And
Yes.
a lot of his research has been on NDEs, near death experiences. So he's actually shared the exact same thing, that it is limiting. And he's had that as well. So very cool to see that crossover there.
Hmm. I would love to get in contact with him and maybe have him on the show.
Yeah,
Um,
he's a cool dude. Yeah,
yeah.
so interesting that that
Yeah.
kicked off your growth journey.
It
And
did.
whoa, that's absolutely been what I consistently hear, going near that near death experience does. It brings you a level of sobriety in a way.
Very mu oh, that was powerful. I love how you said that. That was such an aligned word. I'm gonna start using that now. I also started using
Brownie
the
points.
word aligned more because of you. Remember the other day?
Oh, yeah.
I start using it now because of you. So
Yay.
yes. So
Words are
if
powerful. They
when
have
y'all get sick
power.
of me saying that word, just thank Amelia. I
You're
love that
welcome.
word now. It's just like, yes. Um, so like I recorded an episode right before this and I was saying the word aligned like all the time. Um,
Yes.
so so something that growth journey helped me to accept and receive, later on in life was it's okay to receive help from others. So I know one of our next topics is, impact
Mm,
of community support. What
mm.
did that look like for you? Like, and what is the impact of it?
Yeah. Every single time I think about this, there's new information and waves of connections that come forward. And, the one that just came forward was when I was younger, I didn't realize my affinity and draw and pull to nature. Where I started here, that I love plants. My pull to nature was the only thing that, for me at the time when humans didn't have words to what I was going through, and I couldn't turn to my humans and feel safe
Mhm.
and understood and
Mm,
heard in some of my darkest moments that I didn't know how to cope with. Nature was my go-to community, and the people that were drawn, yeah, and connected to nature. Like, for example, my grandmother comes to mind. She was the one that always encouraged my pursuits into nature and exploring little frogs and little salamanders under the,
yes.
just like that affinity and wonderment. That was my first, I would say, community that what came to help me understand that really helped my development. And when we talk about it from the standpoint of this version of Emilia, I look back and I realized the impact of community is so much greater than
Mm,
ego version of Emilia could have given credit for.
mm,
And when I think about that, and who might be listening, there's definitely something to be said. I've always kind of pondered this. Do you want more quantity of community, or do you want quality of community?
yeah.
And I was always the woman or the person or the young girl, the teenager that always wanted higher quality
Mhm,
connections and community support
mm,
than numbers.
yeah.
And so when we look at the bigger aspects of the research and what now is available to us, that for decades and millennia of ancient wisdom has always known, indigenous communities have at the center of everything, right? We've somehow disconnected from how powerful community can impact us in both ways,
Yes.
positive and negative, right?
Right, right.
But the power of community continuously remains a keystone within
Yeah,
the arch of everyone's journey.
yeah.
And I deeply believe, and I've found this in my own experience, personal and professional, that we often are hurt by community, but we also are healed
Healed. Oh,
in community.
whoa. Woo. That was powerful. I've never heard that said. Like, sorry, continue.
No,
Whoa.
it's exactly
Can
that.
you
It
say
hits me
that
every
one
single
more
time.
time?
Yeah, we're often hurt by people within community, but we're also healed
Mm.
in community, by community, through community. And, and so everything that I do nowadays, I had a version of my journey that was very hyper independent. It swing from the trauma that I experienced.
Right. Yes.
And
Same.
I feel
Yeah.
like in the growth journey, everyone goes through a certain phase of that if they've gone
Yes.
and had a high A score,
Hmm.
because you learn that people are unsafe.
Yeah.
You learn that if someone that close can hurt me, I don't want to get close to anyone else.
Yeah.
And I can do this on my own. And it couldn't be more far from the truth. And that ego version of Emilia didn't know how to discern between safe people who were actually really safe members of community and people that were unsafe,
Hmm.
because that level of discernment would require a level of grief and processing of
Hmm.
humanity that rose color glasses Amelia had
Yeah.
when she was young and naive, right?
Yeah.
And that would require a level of acceptance and understanding that sometimes the human brain just can't comprehend, or we don't have the
Right.
emotional coping skills to navigate that level of grief.
Right.
So now I feel like the level of humility that by force and by pursuit has come into this body, this mind, is having at the center point of everything that I do. How is this going to impact the community? How does this weave another fiber into what it means to be in community and in relation to others? So, what started in nature also includes
Mm.
people and the members of our community, and really try to be very mindful of what the impact is,
Yeah.
because it's very easy to live in this world and be totally shut off to the impact that we have on others. And I've
Right.
been there, and
Same.
we have so much power in the words that we say, how we show up, how we don't
Yeah.
show up, and we get to live with that.
Exactly. I'm speechless in a good way. You know, something that helped me, what was one of the biggest, like, jaw-dropping moments in a good way. When you were talking about discernment, what helped me in my journey uh, in the past, and even till this day, I use it now in a different way, but back then, I
Mhm.
needed to discern the safety or not safe. So I was like, there is a difference between uncomfort and unsafe.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So being able to learn, and it took me some time. Like, it wasn't a overnight thing. I'd say it almost took me almost a year to get somewhat of a satisfiable enough handle on it, like a
Mm.
secure enough handle on it, but I still grew in it and still learned. But I felt at first I was unsure, like I didn't know how to discern that. So it took when it took therapy, it's that, but also listening to my body,
Mhm.
doing research, um recognizing or even like researching safe actions, right? Like even having to go as far as doing that sometimes, um,
Mhm.
and pulling out moments from my past that made me like from like early as I can remember that made me feel awful, and that was clearly unsafe.
Yeah.
So recognizing like these actions, making the discern, but also, validating my feeling as well. Like, how do I feel when this is done? How do I feel when that is done? And then eventually now I'm like so much better at it than I used to be, being able to feel uncomfort and feel unsafe and knowing when
Mhm.
it's time to leave or
Mhm.
when it's time to just, just be present and recognize, it's okay that there's uncomfort.
Yeah.
Um, you don't have to stay the whole 3 hours at this party, if you're just uncomfortable, I'm proud of you for coming. Now, unsafe is like, okay, so there's two people arguing and two of them have guns and they're both drunk. And so that could escalate to something. So maybe that's unsafe, like things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, good
mhm,
on you for navigating that because a
yeah,
lot of the times, and what I see with many different people, teams, it plays out, families, couples,
yeah.
discomfort or that uncomfort, there's an element that when brought into my world, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. It's called a window of tolerance. What our
Mm,
nervous system can handle is that quote
mm,
unquote discomfort. And a lot of people will never increase. And this is where resilience and distress tolerance skill sets get built up. A
mm,
lot of us will just register distress or discomfort or that uncomfort as unsafe. So the
mm,
equal sign is distress, unsafe. And for growing and evolving and for doing anything in this world, there's going to be an element of discomfort because we naturally are comfort seeking souls and human beings, right? We
yeah,
don't want to go outside when it's raining out. There's
yeah,
reason. It's uncomfortable, right? To get
right.
all squishy. But if, let's say, for example, you recognize that you have maybe these goals to go for a run and it rains, that's not
Mm,
unsafe. Your discomfort isn't
right.
necessarily unsafe. And so finding that line through
Mm,
everyone's journey is honestly, it's a journey in and of itself, and I
yes.
hear you experience that, and it's not a flip of a switch. And I
Right.
honestly think that that's one of the most beautiful journeys you can go on because
Mm,
discomfort versus safety, like everyone has their own elements that make that
right.
up, right?
Hmm.
And not knowing what those elements are for us, it keeps us open and exposed and vulnerable in the way that vulnerability
Yes.
is scary, right? Not necessarily vulnerability for growth, which
Yeah.
is required, right? So it's a journey. And
Yes.
would you say, I'm super curious, would you say it's one that is worth navigating, even if it is a year or two?
It is so worth navigating. My life is so
Mhm.
much more enriched because of it.
Mhm.
I'm so grateful for the times that I kept going, the times that I even gave up and got back up.
Yeah.
Because there were definitely those moments, right? So, like, though it wasn't always an easy process,
Mhm.
um, now it's fairly easy now, for at least so far, right? But at first it wasn't. So I say that to folks, I was like, it does get better. It does get
Mhm.
better.
Mhm.
But yes, and something that you mentioned that I wanted to also throw out there is, like, and I love that you had mentioned it. So, yeah, my definition of unsafe,
Mm.
it changed as I healed. So once upon a time,
Cool.
not only was I uncomfortable, but I felt unsafe around men. Like my nervous system went so, like it went insane, and
Mm.
that was unsafe. And
Mhm.
through healing, now I'm able to be around men, and now it's not unsafe.
Wow.
Right, and
Yeah.
those men that I was around while my nervous system was going crazy, logically, visually, they were kind to me. I could tell that, but my nervous system did not know that, and
Yeah.
I had to bounce out, right? So,
Honestly, yeah, those signals were real. They were trying to tell you something. And we so
exactly.
often override those signals.
Right. And so I've been ever since
Mhm.
ever since spring 2025, I've, you know, learned my lesson and it was just like we're listening to our body. We
Mm.
are listening. We're not gonna kind of listen. No, we're listening to
Mm-mm.
our body.
Loud and clear.
Yeah,
That's
I'm tired of learning my lesson the hard way. And
I
yeah,
know. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of listeners will resonate with that. Learning
yeah,
the hard way is not fair to our nervous
exactly.
system. Yeah.
Well, I know we were also going to talk about emotional intelligence, but we are coming up on time, and I do want to be respectful of your time.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you. This was amazing
this was
in so
amazing.
many ways.
I would love to have you back on again if you would like to do another schedule, same calendar link, and we
Yeah,
can talk about emotional intelligence.
that
Um,
sounds great.
um, folks, I'm gonna close out the show, Amelia, but I'm gonna use that last minute. I have to tell you something.
Okay.
Alrighty, folks. If no one has told you today that you are worthy of love and that you are worthy of healing, um, that you deserve love and deserve healing, allow myself to be the first, and please allow yourself to be the second. Even if you don't believe it, tell yourself, because you are worthy and deserving of love and healing. Okay, see y'all next episode for whatever that may be.